Hi guys, recently I made this Korean pulled pork and it was just insanely good. It's also a key component in other Korean or Korean fusion dishes like Korean quesadillas, pork fried rice and bibimbap. So it's definitely worth doing and maybe having in the freezer. Start off with 3 limes and halving them and setting them aside until later. Next, take 1 large onion, peel it and quarter it. Now the recipe calls for 5 peeled garlic cloves, but mine are quite small, so I'm using 7. And just crush them all with the side of your knife. Now take a good thumb-sized piece of fresh ginger and peel it. Then slice it up and bash each slice with the side of your knife like you did with the garlic. Then take an orange and just cut it in half. Now take these ingredients over to your hob. Then add 120 milliliters of orange juice to a heavy base saucepan. Then about 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. Next, the Korean staple doenjang. This is fermented soybean paste. Quite like miso, it's kind of Korean's answer to miso paste. And add about 2 tablespoons. Next, take some gochujang, which is Korean fermented chili paste. And it's so delicious, really hot, and add 2 tablespoons of that as well. Now take some gochugaru, which is Korean chili flakes, and add 1.5 teaspoons. I know these are some specialized ingredients, but they're really worth buying if you're interested in Korean cooking. They're staples and they'll last forever. Next, take 1 of your halved limes and squeeze the juice into the pot. Now add 475 milliliters of water and whisk it all up so that the pastes dissolve and it's all incorporated. Next, pile in 1.8 kilograms of boneless pork shoulder cut into 5cm pieces trimmed of excess fat. Get your butcher to do the work for you. Give it all a quick stir. Then add the onion quarters, the orange halves, the smashed ginger, and the smashed garlic. Then give everything a really good stir to combine and turn the heat onto high to bring the mixture to the boil. Then reduce the heat so that it'll gently simmer for 10 minutes. Then clamp the lid on and transfer to a preheated oven at 150 degrees Celsius and leave for 2 or 2.5 hours, stirring halfway through. After that, the pork should be so tender and incredibly juicy, but you're going to need to remove it all with all the veg and fruit with a really good slotted spoon and just leave as much of that juice in the pot as possible. Once all the meat and veg is taken out and put into a bowl, pour any runoff juices back into the pot. You need all of them. Now turn the heat up to high and bring to the boil and allow boil for maybe 15 minutes or so, but just as long as it takes to reduce these juices down by half. Then remove from the heat and set aside. Then take a large baking tray lined with tin foil. Then take your stewed meat and vegetable mixture and gradually add it to the tray, removing any vegetables or fruit as you go. Once all the meat is added, take 2 forks and start pulling it apart or squashing it to create this pulled pork effect. You can of course use your fingers as well if you prefer. By now the meat should have cooled enough. Once that's all done, take your reduced, thick, savoury, delicious juices from earlier and pour it all over the meat. And don't even think about leaving a drop of that stuff behind, it's all so valuable. Now toss it all together to make sure that it's all coated in the reduced juices. Try not to tear the tin foil underneath. It's no big deal if you do a little bit like I did, but you don't want to be eating bits of tin foil in this. Next, spread the pork out into a single layer so that it's covering the tray evenly. Sprinkle over a little pinch of sea salt flakes and a little shake of cracked black pepper. Then place under a hot grill for 6 minutes roughly, or until the meat just starts to char. And should look a little something like this. Take your 2 remaining halved limes from earlier and squeeze the juice over the pork. I actually only added the juice from 1 lime here and I left the remaining lime to serve as a garnish for people to squeeze over themselves. Then just toss it all together to disperse the lime juice and then transfer it to a serving bowl. I served this with a few different Korean side dishes like my honey soy glazed baby potatoes, and my instant cucumber kimchi. Both those recipes will be in the description below. Thanks really for watching, guys. I hope you liked this video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button below and the subscribe button to subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to follow me on social media, I'll put all the links to my accounts in the description below. I'll also include a link to my Korean cooking playlist on YouTube if you want to watch my other Korean videos. And I'll put a link to my blog where you'd find this full recipe at www.rookiecook.org.